Hello, welcome back to Assetto Corsa. Today I'm going to be taking a look at one of the new free cars that Kunos have included in Assetto Corsa, along with the new Porsche and the Mazda MX-5, I think it's the NA. They have included the Mazda 787B. Now this is a car we've been waiting for a very long time. Of course, you've seen it before on this channel if you've been subscribed that long. We had it as a mod a long time ago, actually. Now we're talking 2015? Late 2015 or something. We did have it as a mod. So this is not a mod. Just to let you know, make sure you guys don't know, or make sure you guys know that this is not a mod. Now, just going to drop the force feedback first of all, because I seem to have an issue with the force feedback. I think I just need to lower it across the board. I think all the cars I seem to bring down to 85%, so really ignore that. The Mazda 787B, I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, know of this car. It's the only rotary engine to win the LeMans 24-hour. It's the first car that had carbon ceramic brakes and won the LeMans 24-hour. It's the only Japanese car to ever win the LeMans 24-hour, if I remember correctly. I mean, Nissan have never won it, Toyota have never won it, Mazda have won it once, and everyone else that's won it is Porsche, Audi, and Ford. Those kind of people have won it. So I think, yeah, this is the only Japanese car to ever win the LeMans 24-hour, despite only having raced, I think, once or twice. I think it may have just been once. Yeah, I think it was just once that it raced in the LeMans 24-hour. In fact, Mazda didn't actually stay in endurance racing for very long at all. This car was obviously the B version of the 787. Now, the 787 in itself is it's just a car that it was supposed to be racing in endurance, but it just wasn't good enough. So, you know, this was in 1990, and they debuted this new 787, and it wasn't brilliant. It was designed and constructed in England by Nigel Stroud, I think, and then sent off back to Japan, where they put obviously the engine into it, and they did all the bits and bobs, you know, the suspension and everything. Now, what they did instead is they put carbon fiber composites, which was different on this. They had a honeycomb structure, a full chassis, you know, for the full chassis. In 1991, when the 787B was in there, they changed the suspension geometry so you could put bigger wheels, and therefore you could put carbon ceramic, bigger brakes, and all that. And of course, they put this wonderful R26B rotary engine, 4 rotors on this, 3 spark plugs on every rotor. I think that was absolutely brilliant. And of course, everyone knows the noise of this car. This is one of the most famous sounds in endurance racing. It's one of the most incredible sounds. In fact, a rotary engine just sounds incredible, full stop. Whether it's on one of these, you know, one of these 787s or whatever they have, I think they have the 767 and all of them as well, or whether it's on an RX-8, as you see now, or on the famous RX-7, whether it's the you know, the FB, the FC, or the FD. Personally, I like it on the FD the most. Anyway, specs of the car. So, like I said, the engine is a RB26 rotary 4 engine. So we're not talking about V's or flat or inline. We're talking rotary engine, completely different configuration, completely different type of ignitions, completely different type of spark, completely different type of combustion, or the way it does it. Mid-engine, longitudinally mounted, 2.6 litre. Now, I do want to point out that when we say 2.6 litre on this, with the rotary engines, you can get a lot more for the capacity. So, for example, you could, for this one, that 2.6 litre got 700 bhp out of it. In the race in 1991, though, they were limited, or they did limit it to 650 bhp. That was just to ensure that they would get through the required number of laps to make sure they won the race, which was 367 laps? Don't quote me on that one, but it was somewhere in the mid 300 range, and they had to get that many laps through, and they had to make sure they didn't run out of fuel, and they had the right fuel, the pit stops, and it was all a strategy play. So they dropped the power of the engine by about 50 bhp. I think this version of Assetto Corsa has 690 bhp, but there we go, it's next to makes no difference really. And like I said, that comes in at 9,000 rpm. Torque is 448 foot-pounds or 608 newton meters of torque. That's at a lower 6,500 rpm, as I had just a bit of a slide there. I'll talk a bit more about the physics and the sounds and what it looks like and everything in Assetto Corsa in a few minutes, as I normally do. But those of you who may have come to this from the Hypercar Showdown, this is the normal type of video that I do on Assetto Corsa. The Hypercar Showdown is a special type of video with a lot more effort, a lot more time that goes into it. So there we go, and I'm just looking around so you guys can get a good look of the interior of this car. Like I said, the chassis, carbon fiber monocoque, front suspension double wishbone, inboard coil springs over shock absorbers, and of course we had an anti-roll bar. In fact, I think that was on the rear as well. I think it was all four, yeah, all around. Rack and pinion steering, as you get actually on most of these. Carbon ceramic disc brakes, like I said, I think they were Brembo, if I remember correctly. I think they were Brembo, and the gearbox was a combination, was a gearbox 5-speed manual that was a combination in terms of who built it between Mazda and Porsche. So you know, you had good gearbox right there, and of course rear wheel drive, as you get from these Group C vehicles. Weight was 830 kilos, or for those of you who use pounds, that's 1,830 pounds. And it wasn't a long car, of course. Well, when I say it wasn't a long car, I think in relative sizes, you see that these cars are very, I don't know, the cars look like they've got a shorter wheelbase, they look like they're wider, it gives it more agility. If you think the Lancia Stratos, with the shape of the wheel, with the way the wheelbase, the height, the length, the width, all of that, it gives it very good agility. It's the same kind of philosophy you get on these cars. If you have wider, you know, a wider car, that's not as long and everything, you just get a better turn in, better center of gravity, you got better center of pressure if you get the aerodynamics right and everything on it, and all that kind of stuff. But we're not going into that. This isn't one of those videos where I go into all the little details of a particular car. Front and rear tires were also Dunlop 18 inches, 300 640 R18s, and 355 710 R18s on the back. And of course, the major win, in fact the only win of this car, was the 1991 24 Hours of Le Mans. It was car number 55, which I believe is this car that I'm driving right here. In fact, you can just see the 5 there. Driven by, was it Bertrand Cachot, Johnny Herbert, and Volker Wiedler. I believe they were the drivers for this car. Mazda entered 2 787Bs into the Le Mans 24 Hour, and one 787 as sort of a backup car. And I think the cars came 1st, 6th, and 12th. I think it was 1st, 6th, and 12th. So there we go. Oddly enough, this car didn't actually then win anything else. It seemed that it was great for this particular endurance race, but then everywhere else it was distinctly average. It was a very average car. So why it's got such a place in history is sometimes, I suppose it can be baffling. Actually, it's even more baffling that only 3 of these cars were built. So, you know, that's another thing. So why it's got such a place in history, I suppose nobody will really know. I suppose it's the way in which, perhaps, the way in which it absolutely demolished Jaguar and the likes in the Le Mans 24-hour race, even though it was running down on power to save fuel and all that kind of stuff. Maybe that's possibly what it was, but maybe it's the engine, the fact that it's the only Wankel rotary engine that has won a Le Mans race or an endurance race, or maybe it's the fact that it just sounds so amazing and it's just so good. But there we go, you know, that's that. Now to Assetto Corsa. What is it like in Assetto Corsa for the remainder of this video? Right, modelling. Again, no complaints on the modelling. Modelling is absolutely fine. We never have any issues with modelling when we come to Kunos for almost everything. I think every model of their car is up to a very, very high standard. Everything looks great in that department. So no complaints there, and it looks very accurate to the car. You know, I took a look around. You can tell it's a Mazda 787B straight away from looking at it. Whether you look at the wheels, whether you look at the front of the car or the back of the car, you know it's a Group C race car. You know it's a Mazda, and it's just good. It's just really, really good. Texturing. Inside looks great. In fact, you know, looking at the inside, we'll talk a bit about the exterior. That fuel thing that says 50 over the fuel. Now, I forgot to switch on fuel consumption, so that does work. It will go down from 50, but I forgot to switch on fuel consumption, like I said, which is a bit of a pain because I put 50 litres in and I actually wanted to see that go down. But of course it did not. Everything inside looks great. The dials look great. Everything looks like a Mazda as it should. It looks like the actual car. You know, the lights work. Everything works really nicely. Simple display. You know, you've got your speed there, your tachometer, what gear you're in, what your lap delta is right underneath the gear, I believe. So you can see it's 2.5 seconds up right there. Your revs, and I have no idea what the other one is. Oh, that's your lap time. That's your current lap time. Underneath your digital rev counter, there's your current lap time. So you can see 2 minutes 43, or well, just going on past that. Everything else, yeah, like inside just looks really, really good. You can see the carbon fiber. Very simple steering wheel compared to what you get on LeMans cars nowadays. It's very, very simple. But that's about that. Outside, problem. I found that the textures are blurry again, which was a problem with the Porsche, and it's also a problem with this. Not too happy about that. So someone needs to come up with a texture pack that's higher quality. But you know, again, I think this is the second time that, or the third time that Kunis have done that now. Of course, 3 out of 100 cars or whatever there is, it's not bad. But still, I noticed this straight away, and I wasn't entirely happy with it. So there we go. Marks down on textures there. Sounds are very, very accurate. Even that, the backfire sounds, the sounds of the engine, everything is very, very accurate. I think it misses just a little bit in the lower rev range, or sorry, a little bit in the lower bass range of the car. It's just got that little bit missing, so it sounds like it's got a little bit too much treble. It's a little bit too... It sounds a bit too high-pitched. It's not too high-pitched. I think it's just a bit of a sound missing, and I think that's consistent with all cars of Kunos. So I think maybe the sound engine, you know, the F-mod engine, that's causing this. I think they've got the samples right, but you know, it's just a problem there. Apart from that, though, it sounds fantastic. And to be honest, if I was playing a video of an actual 787B doing the same kind of thing as this, and the sounds were, I'd say, within 98% of each other. You know, no, maybe 97% of each other. It was that good. Brings me on to the last thing, physics. Well, this car is so easy to drive, and it's an incredible car. It feels like it's got tons of downforce. It's really, really easy to drive this car. I think it's thoroughly worth taking out. It's great in the corners. It's very smooth. You don't want to get the power down in first or second gear too quickly. The torque does cause the tires to spin up, and you will spin out. But once you're up above 4,000, 5,000 RPM, you can floor it, and it will grip. It really, really will grip. So I love the physics on this. It's a very, very easy car to drive. Really, really brilliant. Final thoughts. Great car. Textures let it down a little bit. It rides the road really, really well. It feels like a race car. It feels very, very exciting to drive, but also very easy. I think I'm going to give this, I would have given it a 9.5 out of 10, but I'm taking a mark down for the textures. 8.5 out of 10 is what I'm going to give it. So thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit the like button if you like this video. Subscribe to the channel for more videos on Assetto Corsa. If you're on Twitch, thumbs up, and do check out my YouTube. And YouTube, please do check out my Twitch and all that kind of stuff, and leave a comment in the comments box below, and do also check me out on Patreon. Link to that is in the description box below. Your support would be massively, massively appreciated. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next episode of Assetto Corsa.